What's up, guys? My name's Brandon, and welcome back to Apple Weekly. In this episode, we're going to be talking about even more iOS 16.4 features and changes, along with new rumors on the iPhone 15 and the next generation iMac, the new Macs that are dropping next month in April, why Apple might be increasing the price of a specific iPad by 80%, the HomePod of our dreams might be coming in less than a year, and much more. And as always, if you guys want to stay updated with all things Apple, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. All right, so let's start by looking at even more new features and changes included in iOS 16.4. And the first two betas brought us a ton of new features. We're talking like 40, 50 plus, but beta 3, there wasn't really a lot going on. We did get a few changes, but there wasn't near as many as the first two betas, as is usual with these beta updates. But the first thing is inside of our settings. If we go to Emergency SOS, we do have a slight change in the verbiage to the call quietly toggle, the text under the call quietly toggle. You can see that on iOS 16.3.1, it was just very vague, but now in 16.4, it's a lot more specific, and it says warning alarms, flashes, and voiceover audio will be silenced when using hold and release or 5 button presses to place an emergency call. In the Shazam application, if you have an app clip or if you just have the application installed, you will see these new 3 dots up in the top right where you have new menu options. We also have a change to the Apple Music icon here where you can open or add to a specific playlist, along with changes to the colors. If we head into our settings and go to General, Language, and Region, we have a new section here for number format. And when you go to that, you have the option to choose between 3 different number formats. There was also some interesting details found in the code by 9to5Mac, and they found that the car key feature, which of course is where you can unlock your car and start your car with your iPhone, that may no longer support NFC, and it's going to instead use the more modern solution of ultra wideband. So the newer phones with UWB will be the only way to use car key, and it's going to drop support for NFC. Now, just before the third beta of 16.4 was released, we did get an additional security response update. It came in at just 3.8 megabytes because, of course, these are just test updates at the moment. Apple is going to officially start doing this soon, but these are tests when you see them on beta software. But anyways, the point of me telling you that is that there was actually a change to the code in beta 3 that will kind of change the verbiage for the security response updates. So according to the code, beta 3 adds wording about apps that could be incompatible with security updates, and it says some apps may be closing unexpectedly due to incompatibility with the latest iOS rapid security response. Removing the security response may fix this. The Tips application received a nice update, and this was not just included in 16.4. This is actually a server-side update, but you can see we have some changes here. We do also have all your devices where it shows our AirPods, HomePod, and it will also show the Apple Watch if you have that paired as well. If you're a baseball fan, the official MLB application was just updated with a lot of new features, including live activities, where you'll be able to see, the play-by-play of the scores in your dynamic island or on the lock screen. You will now see a live activities section right here. Just make sure that is turned on, and you might want more frequent updates as well if you're really trying to follow a game, but just know that that feature right there does always drain battery a little bit. And speaking of applications, we also saw Apple Music Classical finally get announced, and we now see it in the App Store with a pre-order with the official launch coming on March 28th. So this is an application that has been talked about for literally ever now, like over a year. We've heard about Apple Music Classical, and now it is official. It is launching on March 28th. It is going to be a standalone application. It's going to be free if you are an Apple Music subscriber. If you're not, it will be $5 a month. And what's interesting is that this application is only going to be available for the iPhone and not the iPad. But you can see here, there are over 5 million tracks with everything from new releases to celebrated masterpieces, including thousands of exclusive albums. And you will be able to listen to this in high-res lossless and also spatial audio with Dolby Atmos. So I'm sure this is going to be well worth the $5 a month if you are not a Apple Music subscriber. And if you are, it's a nice little bonus, especially if you are into this classical music. I should also mention that the yellow iPhone 14 just went up for pre-order yesterday, so that launches next week. It is just a brand new color, that's it. It's for the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus. I will be doing an unboxing here on the channel, but that is something new along with the new spring cases and Apple Watch bands. And in the press release that Apple pushed out for that yellow iPhone 14, they did also mention that emergency SOS via satellite is going to come to new countries. So they mentioned that it's going to expand to Austria, Belgium, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and Portugal later this month. And they mentioned later this month, so that could be hinting at a 16.4 release date, but we'll talk about that here in a second. But before we discuss that, I do want to briefly talk about the performance and the battery life. So you can see I ran another Geekbench 6 test, and the results are pretty much the same as in the What's New video. Single core is a little bit higher, but it's pretty interesting that both scores are lower than what we got on the first two betas. However, I haven't really noticed a difference in day-to-day performance, so don't expect a big change in performance. However, we do still have the bug on the lock screen with our widget, our battery widget right there. As you can see, every single time I add it, it just shows blank. It doesn't actually show what is charging right there, which looks quite funny. Now, it works on the home screen just fine. No issues with the widget on the home screen. It's only on the lock screen where I'm having this issue, and that was never the case until beta 3. And then as far as the battery life goes, I've really not noticed any difference in battery life. I feel like a broken record because I talk about this all the time, and I kind of just say nothing has changed, but I'm not trying to lie to you guys. I'm not trying to hype something up that's not there. I really don't notice a difference at all in battery life from beta to beta, and honestly, not even from 16.3.1 to 16.4, this latest beta. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, I do want to discuss what is coming next for Apple. So if we go into our calendar here to check out what's coming next, we can expect to see beta 4 next week. So I would expect that on Tuesday, March 14th. Apple does usually like those Tuesday releases, although it could always come a day or two after, but usually we do stick to Tuesday releases. And then after that, I would expect another beta on the week of the 20th, and then potentially an RC on the week of the 27th. Now, there is a little bit of confusion when it comes to the release date for iOS 16.4 because remember, last week, Mark Gurman did say that 16.4 is coming in April. He expects it in April. However, Apple has been pointing to March 28th a lot. Multiple things are being released on March 28th, so it seems like it would only make sense for 16.4 to launch on March 27th. And not the first week of April. So we'll have to wait and see, but I would not expect it any later than the week of April 3rd, in my opinion, just because, we're on a weekly release schedule now. Multiple things are releasing on the 28th, and I just think that's when we will see 16.4 is either the week of the 27th or the week of the 3rd. I think depending on, the next build number in beta 4, that will tell us a lot. If it's an A at the end of the build number, that means that we could see an RC the following week. There's just a lot of unknown at this point. So just stay tuned, keep watching those What's New videos, and of course the Apple Weekly episodes. I will keep you as up to date as possible. So anyways, let's move on to the latest Apple news. Let's start by talking about a new HomePod that is coming a lot sooner than you think. And I'm not talking about a HomePod that looks just like the previous two HomePods. I'm talking about the HomePod of my dreams, which if you've been following the channel here for a while, you know that the HomePod of my dreams has a screen on top. So according to Ming-Chi Kuo, Apple will announce a new HomePod with a built-in 7-inch display early next year. So he said this in his most recent report. I predict that Apple will unveil a redesigned HomePod featuring a 7-inch panel in the first half of 2024 with Tianma as the exclusive panel supplier. The HomePod, which equips a panel, could enable tighter integration with Apple's other hardware products, making a significant shift in the company's smart home strategy. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot wait for this. Now, another Apple product that I get a ton of questions about on a daily basis is the iMac. So when can we expect to see the new iMac? And now Mark Gurman has answered that question, kind of. In his most recent report, he says that the next iMac will remain at 24 inches and come in the same colors as the previous 2021 model. Now, the big difference is going to be internally, as we're expecting it to have the M3 chip inside, along with internal design changes and a new manufacturing process for the stand. As for the release date, this report claims that Apple has reached a quote advanced stage of development, but it's still not expected to go into mass production for at least 3 more months. We're looking at the second half of 2023 at the earliest for this new iMac, but I don't know about you guys, but that's still earlier than I expected. I thought we were going to be waiting until 2024 for sure. But I don't know. What do you guys think? 24 inches, same colors as the previous generation? I don't know. That seems kind of disappointing to me. I mean, I don't really want just an internal upgrade. The iMac is all about colors and fun and big sizes for the display. So let me know your thoughts on this new iMac in the comments below. Now, Gurman goes on to mention that aside from the iMac, Apple is also scheduled to launch about 3 additional new Macs between late spring and summer. Those will likely be the first 15-inch MacBook Air, the first Apple Silicon Mac Pro, and a refresh to the 13-inch MacBook Air. And while Gurman did not mention a specific month or day, good old Ross Young has. So according to Ross Young, he says that the 15-inch MacBook Air is still on track to launch next month in April. And he's usually spot on when it comes to reports like this. So I would bank on at least the 15-inch MacBook Air getting released within the next month. And I believe Apple will also announce the 13-inch MacBook Air at that same time. It would only make sense. And according to 9to5Mac, these new MacBook Airs are going to have the M3 chip inside. So it's not going to be the M2 chip like earlier rumors pointed at. And this report also claims that Apple is planning to release an updated version of the 13-inch MacBook Pro with an M3 chip as well. So we could see all 3 of those MacBooks announced and released around the same time frame, potentially as early as next month in April. Now, moving on to some of the latest rumors surrounding the iPhone 15, we're now hearing that the regular 15 and 15 Plus will not have a ProMotion display, and that those will be limited to the Pro models yet again. So no 120 Hz refresh rate and no always on display for the regular 15 and 15 Plus, but we are still expecting the dynamic island on those devices. So at least you get something. And then looking ahead to future iPhones, we're talking far out, Apple is still continuing to work on the under-display Touch ID technology that would allow us to have both Face ID and Touch ID biometric capabilities. So Apple was just recently granted a new patent which relates to the under-screen Touch ID. And this patent, you can see, it shows shortwave infrared technology combined with an optical imaging system that could not only read your fingerprint when it touches on the display, but it could also be able to determine your vein pattern, blood oxygen, your pulse, and the presence of gloves or wetness. That just sounds super awesome and just so next level. So according to a Korean blog, they say that industry sources believe that Apple's going to debut this under-screen Touch ID 2 to 3 years after the debut of the under-display Face ID iPhone. And according to Ross Young, unfortunately, we should not expect the under-display Face ID iPhone for a few years. So he said this on Twitter: under-panel Face ID is now expected to be pushed at least a year to 2025 or later due to sensor issues. So if we get the under-display Face ID iPhone in 2025, that puts us at about 2027, 2028 for the under-display Face ID and Touch ID sensor. That seems forever away, but as we know, that'll be here before we know it. But man, that sounds so intriguing. Like, I want that now. I want that on the iPhone 15 Ultra or whatever Apple has planned. Crazy for this year. And speaking of crazy, let's talk about the potential pricing for Apple's upcoming OLED iPad Pros, because this, if it comes true, is going to spawn so much backlash. So we are expecting to see these OLED iPad Pros in 2024, and according to industry sources, and this is reported on by The Elec, Apple is estimating that next year's OLED iPad will be starting at $1,500 for the 11-inch model and $1,800 for the 13-inch model. $1,800 for a base model iPad is just insanity. That's more than the new M2 Pro Mac Mini and close to the price of like a Mac Studio. That is absurd. And they're saying that these price hikes are due to the cost of supplies to deliver that OLED display. So the supply price of OLED panels for existing 10-inch devices is around $100 to $150, but the cost for the processes involved to make Apple's specific 11-inch and 13-inch panels may be closer to $270 and $350 respectively. So if Apple's own cost is doubling, then I kind of get it, but you know, the pricing of these OLED panels from Samsung and LG is not finalized yet, so a lot can change between now and then. But if these costs do not change, then I mean, I still don't see Apple raising prices this much. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't believe this report at all. I think that there's no way that Apple would increase the price of a base model 11-inch iPad Pro by 80%. That just does not seem like something Apple would do. So I'm not buying this. I think we need more time to see, how this develops. And maybe they're talking about the, top end model and not the base model. Maybe there's some confusion there, because I just don't see this as being possible to raise prices by 80% and like 60% respectively. And then finally, have you ever wondered why people buy iCloud locked iPhones and stolen iPhones? Well, it's because there's actually a lot of money involved in that shady business. And that case was proven by a Charlotte business who was just busted for profiting more than $20 million from stolen iPhones. Court documents show that this company, which was run by two people in their 30s, sold more than 20,000 new iPhones from January 2019 through 2020, and they made more than $20 million in the scheme dating back to at least 2013. So they pled guilty to one count of interstate and foreign transportation of stolen property, which carries a max prison sentence of 10 years and a $250,000 fine, but they were not arrested. And we don't know if that $20 million was seized or not. I would assume it was, but also when you're in this shady business, I'm sure that the feds only know about a fraction of the money that they actually made. That is just crazy to me how that can operate for so long without getting caught, but still, wild story. So there you have it. That is the latest Apple news and a brief update on the latest iOS 16.4 features and changes. If you want to check out another video, check this one out right here. I think you will enjoy that one, and I will see you guys very soon.